Hi everybody. This is Billy. I'm going to walk you through the homework today. Um, First part of the homework is to take two different images and combine them in Photoshop. And I'm asking you to take them out of Lightroom in a different way than you did the first week. There are some distinct advantages in doing it the way you did it the first week, but I just want you to know this other way in case it works better for your workflow. So I've got these two images in Lightroom. They're both selected, and I am going to export them. And I'm going to create a folder in here, call it test, and I'm going to export them as DNG files. Okay, so those are exporting. You might want to do the homework as you watch this video. Pause it if you need to. And I've got this, I'm going to go over the homework, and I'm also going to take you through a couple other things that I suggested I'd show you in class the other night. So now I'm going to, already exported these, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of Lightroom. And in Photoshop, I'm going to open up the images. Now, there are two different ways to open up the images. I can go to File, Open, and browse for them. I can also go to my Finder and find those two images and drag them down to Photoshop there. Okay, so here they are. They're DNG files, so they immediately open up into the Camera Raw menu. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to hold down the Command key and click on this other one, so I'll make sure they're both highlighted. That way I can open them up both at the same time in Photoshop. Now, I have my defaults a little bit different than they might be on your computer. I automatically have mine open up as objects. If I hold down the Shift key, it will go back to open images. This is what you probably see. Anyway, so we're going to open these up as smart objects. I tell you what, I'm going to do it another way. I'm going to open this up as images so I can show you something in just a second. Anyway, these will open up as Photoshop files. Again, that's also set up in my preferences. And here we go. I also have mine open up in Windows. You may find your images opened up into tabs. I've changed my preferences to open up in Windows. I like to work that way. And I'm going to reduce, hit the Command minus key to get these windows a little smaller so I can move them around some. And now I'm going to combine these two images. Now I need more space to add the sky above the beach. So I'm going to take this image and I'm going to expand the canvas. So I go to Image, Canvas Size, and I get this dialog box. Now the height is at 29, so I'm going to make the height 50. That should give me plenty of room. I'm not going to change the width, but I could change the width if I wanted to. That would give me space on left and the right of the image also. But I'm mainly interested in just expanding the height of it. So also here is your a little anchor map that shows you where your images are, where it's going to give you that extra space. Right now it's set up with an anchor point in the middle, and it's going to give me that extra space all the way around. But since I've only changed the height, it will just give it to me on top and bottom. I don't want it top and bottom, I just want it on the top. So I'm going to change my anchor point. I'm going to click here and change the anchor point to the bottom. That'll just expand the image to the top. I'm going to say OK. And there we go. We've got more room on the top there. Now I need to go over to my clouds, and I'm going to click on that. So that's my active image, and I'm going to go over to the layers panel and click on the thumbnail and hold it and drag it over into here and just let go, and there it is. Now there's a big size difference here because the picture of the clouds was taken with my digital camera, but the picture of the sand was taken with a medium format film camera and scanned in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the transform tool to change the size of this. Now also I've got the move tool selected right now, so I can move this around some if I want to. Also the default is this image is going to snap. It's going to like feel like a little magnetic tug to the edges and to the middle and other key places. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go to View, Snap, and turn that off. So now I can freely move this around and tweak it exactly where I want it. Now this image isn't so bad, but if I want to line up the horizons, I'm going to need to change the opacity of this top image. So I'm going to set it down to 50%. That way I can see through each image, or see through the top image, so I can line these up better. Anyway, so I'm going to go to Transform, and there's a couple of different options here. You got Free Transform, which gives you a lot of different options for transforming a layer. Transform will give you other options that are more specific, but it also gives you some that you don't have in the Free Transform. Like I could distort it in this one. I could also flip the horizontal or flip the vertical, which is some nice little advantages there. So now I can make the clouds look like they're going a different direction if I wanted to. So I'm going to go back to Transform, and I'm going to go to Free Transform, and I'm going to move this image around and scale it up some. Now, a couple of things to be careful about. When you are transforming, it wants to know if everything's okay. And when it is okay, you click on that. If you click anywhere outside the image area in this, it will also assume that is a way of saying everything's okay. So just want to forewarn you, be careful, don't click until you're done with the transform. Now, one thing also to be aware of is that you are going to degrade that layer if you go through here and you transform it down to a small size and then go and transform it up to a larger size. Okay, that's a no-no. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to say, don't want to do that. I'm going to go back in time in my history panel here. Now, if you need to do a lot of adjustments to a layer, I suggest you first make this a smart object. That's why I did not open these up originally as smart objects. If you want to create that as a smart object, you go over to Layer, Smart Object, Convert to Smart Object. And what it's going to do, it's going to change this one layer to a smart object. And then I could transform it down and up and all different ways, and it will not affect the original resolution of the image. There. Now it's a smart object. So I'm going to go into Edit, Free Transform. Going to get this just a little bit bigger, or right around the size of the bottom one. I can move it up and down. I'm going to get this horizon to line up. Now also, while I'm doing this, I can hit the Command or the Control plus key to zoom in a little bit. I can even hold down the space bar and get my hand tool and move it around some if I want to. As long as I don't click anywhere in here and I don't hit that check box, I'm still okay in doing my transform. Now, this is where I get frustrated with the way Photoshop has changed this. The way I want to grab that corner and I want to drag it out right now, but I can't because it's going to let Photoshop know that the transform was okay. So I'm going to, now you can click in anywhere in this image, just like right now I clicked and I'm dragging this around. That's okay, but I can't click anywhere else. Otherwise Photoshop's going to assume that it's all okay. See, watch, I'm going to do that. I tried to drag that corner out and it says okay, you're done. Alright, I'm going to hit the Command minus key, get it a little bit smaller there, and I'm going to change my opacity. Why did it say 100? Okay. Something very strange has just happened. I'm going to convert this back into a regular layer and see if that does anything. Okay, something strange happened there. I am going to go back, and that's the great thing about the history panel. We can always go back, change my opacity, and I'm going to go to free transform. Line up those horizons again. Click OK. And there. Now I need a mask for this top layer. So I'm going to go to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All. And the reason why I need that layer mask is because now what I need to do, I'm seeing all of this top image. It's just like they're laying on top of each other. And I need to sort of soften that transition between water and the sand there. And I want to blend it in so you can't really see it. So now I'm going to go to my paintbrush, get a decent sized brush. I'm going to check it and make sure its hardness is set to 0. You don't want the hardness set up there at 100 because you'll be able to see distinct edges of your brush. You can just click over here to make that go away. You could also right click on when you're working on the image. Right click and you can check your hardness or your brush size that way too. So I'm going to go in here. My opacity is 100. That's a little high. I'm going to set the opacity down to around 30 and I'm going to start working. Now notice my foreground color is black, and then I'm going to be painting black on this mask over here. So I'm going to just blend that in a little bit. Now hopefully you remember in class how we made an adjustment layer and we made it apply only to a specific layer. We're going to do that in a second here, because if you can tell, that sky looks really bluish and this sand is distinctly kind of brown. So I'm going to take do an adjustment for my background. Now since my sky is on top of the background, I don't need to make that. It'll automatically just it'll automatically just affect the background, because remember, though, these layers, they're transparent, like you're looking through them. And so I'm going to go to curves here, and I'm going to add some blue to that beach. Now it's looking a little magenta compared to that, so I'm going to add some green to it. I may need to take some color out. So I'm going to go to my hue saturation, and I'm going to desaturate it some. Yeah, it's maybe I need to let some of that yellow back in. Now I've taken the yellow or brown out of that bottom image with this adjustment layer, with this curves. Now I can go in and start tweaking around with the blue and the green layers again, but what's easiest to do is just go up here to the opacity of that layer and drag it back some, and I'll see some of that color come back through, and that looks pretty decent. That looks more believable. Now I think the sky looks a little bit dark compared to what I've got down on the sand. So I'm going to go up here, highlight my top layer, and I'm going to click on an adjustment, and I get an adjustment that appears above. The adjustment is going to appear above whichever layer you're highlighted. But now this curves layer is going to affect the entire image. See what happens? So I don't want that. I want it just to affect the top image with the sky, and I want to lighten it up some. So I'm going to go there, and now I'm going to go in between the two layers here, in between this adjustment layer and the sky layer below it, and I'm going to hold down the Option key, get that little finger pointed right in between, because if you notice, you got to get right in between there, and then you get this box with the down arrow, and now I click, and now this adjustment layer is just affecting the top image. So now you can go and crop, do whatever you need. You can play around with other adjustments you can do to the entire image. Just put them on the top. So if I wanted to decided I wanted to make the whole image more saturated, make sure I've got this top layer selected, go to my hue saturation, maybe increase the saturation some. Okay, so that's how we combined the two images together. Keep your layers intact, in other words, don't flatten them, which you, by the way, you'll do there. Go to layers and flatten image. That's when you're all done with it. If you don't want to save your layers, and the only reason why you wouldn't want to do that is if you want to send it to someone as a JPEG. So go and save your image and upload it to Canvas for me. Now I'm going to go back to my history, and I'm going to go and start all back over with my original. So now I'm going to show you how to add one part of an image into another, and I'm just going to use this image. I'm going to make more beach. Let's say I wanted a much wider shot than this, so I'm going to go to image, canvas size, and I'm going to increase the width of this here. I'm going to go to 60, and I'm going to put my anchor point over here on the right, so it's going to give me more space on the left of the image. And now I'm going to take a selection tool, and I'm going to use my lasso tool. It's a real rough selection tool, and I'm going to just take a section out of here. Now that I've got this selected, I'm going to hit the Command C. I could also go up here to Edit and Copy, and then Edit, Paste. Notice you've got your keyboard shortcuts right next to this menu. There's Command V. I'll just go ahead and click on here. And now what it did, look, it created another layer right on top of the background layer. And if I don't see it right now because it's right smack on top of the other one, but if I take my Move tool, I can see I can move that around. So I'm going to expand my beach a little bit, but it's going to look really funny here because you're going to be able to tell that that's a duplicate. So you know what I'll do? I'm going to disguise it a little bit. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform. I'm going to go flip the horizontal, and I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform. I'm going to squash it down a little bit. Now, when you're in the free transform and you grab one eye, it keeps the proportions the same. Well, I intentionally want to change the proportions, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key when I grab that edge, and now it's going to squash it down some. I tell you what, let me expand it out some. That might be a better. Not a whole lot. That's going to change my perspective. I'm going to expand it a little bit. I'm going to say OK. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to distort it a little bit. And hopefully that will make it different enough from my original image where you won't be able to tell what I did. I'm going to change my opacity here so I can see a little bit better about what I'm doing. And I'm going to move it around. I'm just using the move tool here. I'm not using the transform tool. I've already done enough. I could use the transform tool if I wanted to, but I think this will work fine. And I think this is going to be really hard not to make it look obvious that I've been playing around. Maybe if I had gone the other way, nah, I don't think it's going to make any difference. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to get my opacity back up to 100. I'm going to take the layer mask, reveal all. I'm going to blend in. Need to get a little bit more opacity there. There we go. And I'm not sure if this is going to work real well, but I get an A for trying, right? And I need to switch. I'm going to use the X key, or I could click on that. I'm going to use the X key to get the white, because I went a little bit too far up here. So there. And I'm going to crop. Take this as an example of what not to do. Okay? So, but I have effectively created more sand. It looks kind of weird. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I did pull it off, kind of. I still need to crop a little bit left and right. That snap is bothering me, so I'm going to turn that. Oh, no, it is. It's not snapping. Felt like it was. There. Okay. So that is how we just basically, it's like what we did with the first part of the homework, except now we're using copy and paste. Anyway, so that is the part of the homework, and now I'm going to show you a couple of other things that I mentioned I would do in class. And one thing I pointed, what I was, I forget, I think it was Kristen was asking a question. I showed her how to copy a mask. So let's say if I've got, let's say if I make an adjustment layer here, and I darken, or let's say I darken part of the image. I'm going to darken the top half. And so I'm going to go in here, and my layer mask is white, which means everything's showing through. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get my brush, and I'm going to darken it so it just, I'm going to paint black on the mask. So I'm not sure why everything's going so slow. But anyway, so now I've got this mask here that I've painted the bottom portion of. And what I might want to do now, let's say if I wanted to so basically my adjustment is only affecting the top portion of this image now. I'm waiting for my computer to catch up. It doesn't like me to record a video and use Photoshop at the same time. So what I'm going to do here is I'd like to show you the mask, and one way to use that same mask is to copy that entire layer. Bear with me for a second while we wait on this to stop doing what it's doing. And it's still, yep, it's still catching up. I could see the preview changing a little bit. Let's see if there's anything else I can tell you about while we're waiting. Tell you what, I'm gonna stop